Hi there. My name is Bob Dunsmore. I have some incredible good news. I'm going to try to just do this in 10 minutes because I know our attention span seems to be getting pretty limited in this modern environment of jolts and shorts and brief conversations, which really, when you think about it, have not really covered very well the fact that the earth is dying, and that according to most scientists, within 3 or 4 years we're going to lose complete control of the ability to reverse climate change and restore the earth to some degree. 3 to 4 years, folks. And so to have good news on how to solve the climate crisis in a beautiful way, low-tech, community-based, low-risk, we would be able to see the reversal, at least the first indications of a reversal of global warming within 1 or 2 years of it being implemented by our government. And there's the rub. Our government right now will not be able to accomplish this. It's just a fact. It is sold to the corporate bottom line of profit making. Most of our people in public service are bought, and the whole focus is to grow the economy and to consume more and to continue really enriching our present moment by just ignoring the fact that we're destroying the earth, not talking about it anyway. Everybody knows that we've reached like 16 tipping points altogether, and here we are talking about one tipping point. No, we're rapidly accelerating towards an extinction event, and yet our nonprofit came across a solution, and we were taught by the #1 climate scientist in the United States the following message, which has to go out to the entire world. It is that the corporate interests have sold the American people, and actually it's all around the world, that when you ask people what's the solution that the U.S. policy is bringing about for climate change, they always say, well, more EVs, more batteries, more windmills, more solar farms. It turns out that John Berger, the author of Solving the Climate Crisis, explained to me in his living room in Oakland, California, that is aggravating climate change dramatically. Just look at the facts. Look at what we're going through now. Even though we've manufactured many windmills and so, it's just remarkable. All those things are very good, he points out. They're good things, but not for right now. Maybe after we solve the climate crisis. You know why? Because all the carbon dioxide, the billions of tons of carbon dioxide are being pumped into the atmosphere in the manufacturing process of all those EVs, all the batteries, all the windmills, all of that will not dissipate from the Earth's atmosphere for 300 to 400 years. And I think this needs to be shout out to the entire world, that the corporate interests, they know that this isn't helping global warming, but it does help their bottom line and their shareholders, and making more billionaires than we've ever known in the history of the planet, okay? And all that money being accumulated in order to do crazy things like eliminate the need for humans in the job market, for example, the job force. Oh, okay, so John Berger said, after explaining that to me, I didn't know that it would take 300 to 400 years to lose the carbon dioxide that's presently in the atmosphere. He said there's only one solution, Bob, and it's the one that the Earth has used for millions and billions of years maybe, and that is to draw down the carbon that's in the atmosphere into the soil and into the forests and into the oceans. And it's always been able to balance that out, but right now there's so much being pumped out there that we're losing the Earth's ability to do that, because all the soil, the arable soil, is dead from chemicals, from companies like Monsanto and others that are getting paid right now $300 billion a year in order to continue chemical farming and killing the soil even more. Okay, that soil, dead, is not able to draw down the carbon. Once the soil is regenerated, which is what we're proposing as part of the solution to this, then immediately the microorganisms in the soil take in the carbon, draw it down, put it into the root system of plants, put it into the tissue of plants so that they can draw down more carbon, and the Earth solution begins to take place, and we need to support that by regenerating the soil, which now we have this incredible machine and a plow discovered in Australia, invented in Australia, I should say, by a man named Yeoman. It's called the Yeoman plow, or the key line plow, which is bringing about an agricultural revolution. But we need to have government support to actually send those billions of dollars that are now going to chemical agriculture into setting up an organic agricultural system where millions of jobs would be created overnight, because organic agriculture is much more labor intensive than the mechanical one. And we would be able to have more nutritional food, communities would get healthier. In an NPR interview, they said, well, it would actually end the immigration crisis in the world, because millions of farmers have left their fields in all these countries around the world because they can't grow the food, they can't afford the chemicals, and the seeds are terminated, the genes are made to terminate life in the seed, and so they simply can't feed their families. But if their soil were regenerated by a mandate of the people, that agribusiness go back and bring back the life of soil around the world, that alone would actually would reverse climate change, according to John Berger. Just that right there. The other big thing that we can do right away is to reforest, but that is something that nobody understands either, and I got to share it with you. I mean, very, very few know this, that according to the United Nations, at least a few years ago, said that the number one cause of deforestation in the world is the fact that there are about 1 billion people out there that go out to get firewood every day for cooking fuel for their families. And so they're girdling trees so that next year they can use those trees for firewood, for cooking. And they're not able to keep up with the reforestation. Plus, the reforestation programs don't work because they're not taking advantage of the way the earth reforests, which there's some beautiful examples of allowing the earth to reforest itself without having to plant millions of trees in a row like they did in Sudan, I think it was, where 2 years later they were all dead. Millions and millions of reforested trees. Well, anyway, so the solution I worked on for 10 years is a way to compress agricultural waste like coffee pulp and sawdust, the rice chaff, and bagasse, which is a sawdust that comes from making sugar, from sugar cane. All of that makes beautiful cooking fuel, which is carbon neutral. And so we have a solution for, in fact, the people in Latin America that received these fuel logs from us, from our project, would promise to take care of their forests, because they know, like in eastern Bolivia, the fact that they've cut down all their forests for cooking fuel means that 200,000 families are flooded out every year in eastern Bolivia. And they know that if the forests were back up on the slopes of the Andes, but because they could then have this neutral, carbon neutral fuel subsidized for we need to have the government. And so we figured out, our nonprofit, the Heart Mind Alliance, figured out, I want to say the Heart Mind Alliance is the .com, and if you want to write me to support what we're doing, it's the Heart Mind Alliance, the email address, heartmindalliance@gmail.com. We figured out that with the invention of the blockchain, we could integrate voting from our cell phones as a people. We could become a democracy. We could declare ourselves a democracy. All we need is a poll in the nation demonstrating and documenting that the majority of people want to live in a democracy where we are the rulers and our public servants become our executive branch, and they debate and they bring in witnesses, and we watch that whole thing on debates about gun control or whatever, climate change. And so we are proposing, after spending $30,000 that we raised via GoFundMe, our app development. Let's see, I think that's the name of the GoFundMe site. App development, anyway, is part of the title. And so that on the GoFundMe campaign, we're still looking for funds because we're paying still the app company that has developed, and we tested it and it works flawlessly, a program is where every vote is encrypted by the blockchain, and every person who votes has a personal ledger to see the transaction number and how the vote was counted, whether it's counted correctly or not, on the blockchain. That's the we, the people, and we're proposing that for the nation. That we now have an instrument to be able to instantaneously get voting on legislation. We become the government, and our public servants, after pledging allegiance to the majority will, those are the only ones that we're going to allow to continue in public service, are those that will commit to the majority will of the nation. They will then, from the left and from the right, they will figure out what legislation responds to the majority will, whether it's on gun control or whatever, but they're always working on that from their different perspectives, and we get to watch that debate. It's going to draw in many people, especially young people, because they're going to have a say in the future of this planet and their own futures. So we have a MoveOn.org campaign now, which shows 33 things that we feel the majority of people in this country want to see happen right away, like getting rid of personhood for corporations, declaring a state of planetary crisis is number one, so that we begin to direct more and more energy towards solving the crisis of on Earth, as opposed to trying to create carbon dioxide on Mars, or trying to populate or send people to the moon. We need to focus right now on saving this planet before we begin to invest trillions of dollars on another planet. Anyway, that's simplifying it, but that's what's happening. And so that mandate, which we're calling a mandate, 33 things, will be voted on by the people, and all it means is that we send that to Congress to figure out what would be a gun control bill that would assure me that my grandchildren, when they go to school, aren't going to get massacred. You know, things like that. And it'd be a fulfillment of the dreams of our founding mothers and fathers of this country, to have a true democracy, a government of, by, and for the people. And I don't think the U.S. military is going to fight against the entire population of the nation that has been able to demonstrate that they want a democracy. And so I think it has real potential. It's beautiful. It'll make the government much more productive, and we'll be able to solve these problems and do the reforesting and the regeneration of soils, and bring regeneration of the oceans. Can you believe it? 90% of the fish have died in the oceans in the last 50 years. 90%. 75% of all the flora and fauna on the earth disappeared in the last 50 years. We need to take control, because the government's not doing it, obviously, especially this particular administration. And so that's my plea. Let's try to get a poll in the country asking, would you prefer to live in a democracy or representative government like we have? And begin to develop this idea of we, the people, being the government of this United States, and being able to solve the problems that we need, like health care and everything else. I appreciate your listening. I hope I kept it in 10 minutes. I have no idea. But thank you, and write the Heart Mind Alliance at gmail.com if you can pledge some support for what we're doing, because it's the most important work ever undertaken by humankind. Thank you.